Welcome to the Talk BGKY podcast, the official podcast for the City of Bowling Green. My name is Cameron Levis, the Recreation Division Manager with Bowling Green Parks and Recreation. It is July, which means it's National Park and Recreation Month, and we always like to celebrate all things Parks and Rec here in Bowling Green and Warren County. We've got a really special episode today celebrating something unique within our department, something that a lot of people in our community may not realize falls under the Parks and Recreation Department and all of our staff and is a responsibility of theirs to take care of, and that is our cemetery division. So I'm excited to have some special guests with me this morning that I will let introduce themselves. So we'll start with Miss Kathy.
This is Kathy Maroney, and I am the division manager for Fairview Cemetery.
Steve Butcher, the supervisor.
Awesome. So yeah, we're really excited to, again, talk about all things Parks and Rec during July. You'll be able to see many things highlighted on the city social media pages, on our website. Lots of different programs and events, of course, going on to celebrate National Park and Recreation Month. But like I said, in this podcast, we're going to talk about something unique. And, our community is blessed with many great parks, with a wonderful Parks and Recreation Department, and one of those divisions that has an incredible staff that serve our community in big ways 365 days a year is the Fairview Cemetery. So, Kathy, if you just want to start out by, just sharing a little bit about your background within the field of Parks and Rec.
I've been in the Parks and Rec field for 31 years. Started in Russellville and was there for 18 years as their assistant director and director of parks there, and then was able to come a little up here to Bowling Green and get closer to home, where I'm originally from. And I've was over at the F.O. Moxley Community Center as a supervisor and coordinator there for several years, and then transferred over to Fairview Cemetery as their division manager and been there going on 7 years.
An extensive career in Parks and Rec.
Yes.
We are very lucky to still have you with us. Absolutely. And Steve, what about your background?
Well, I've only been with the city about 4 years. I retired from the military in 2016, from 96 to 16. I'm not originally from here.
Yeah, and you started out with the cemetery in a part-time position? Is that right? A seasonal position. Yeah. Okay. So just to give everybody a background, within the world of Parks and Rec, we hire a ton of seasonals to make, possible what we do every day, whether that's in our recreation division with our summer camps in the pool, our maintenance division, of course, as Steve just mentioned, in our cemetery division and landscape. And so you started out as a seasonal, and then your path has now taken you to being the supervisor over at the cemetery.
Yep.
Yeah, he started out as a seasonal, come in right after retirement, and then was promoted into a full-time position after that first season into a parks facilitator, maintainer 2, and then was promoted into the crew supervisor.
That's amazing.
It's been a great benefit to our division and great leadership role, and I think his military background, but also great personality as a lead. He's got good rapport with the guys.
Absolutely.
And that makes a big difference when you have a good team concept.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I would be remiss if I didn't thank you for your service. A lot of people don't realize there is a ton of veterans that work for the city. We have tons of veterans that work in the Parks Department, and we're very appreciative of their service and them transitioning to serve our community now. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
I want to talk about, I've already mentioned it multiple times, but, a lot of people just don't realize that Fairview Cemetery, and then we have others, of course, that we oversee that you can touch on, just don't realize that it's the Parks and Recreation Department that takes care of that. Just touch on a little bit, just some of the overview of the cemetery division and the spaces that you all take care of on a daily basis.
Sure. A lot of people don't realize at first that, we fall under city government, and then after we tell them that, we're underneath the Parks and Rec umbrella. We maintain 5 cemeteries. We have Fairview Cemetery 1, Fairview Cemetery 2, Mount Moriah Cemetery, which is our African American cemetery. We have Pioneer Cemetery, which is the original cemetery that is between 5th and 6th Street by Skypack. And then we also maintain Covington Cemetery, which is over on Lois Lane. That was a cemetery that we inherited about 6 years ago. As a family, was nobody here, so they asked the city to take it over to maintain that.
Awesome. So maintaining those cemeteries is one part of what you all do. So Steve, just describe to me, and I know this may be a loaded question because we all know in the world of Parks and Rec, and especially at the cemetery, no one day is the same. But describe to me what a day looks like in your world from start to finish.
Kathy will give me the work orders, and if you look at the work orders, your grave's going to be in a plat. So whether it be 1 through whatever, and then your grave is 3.5 by 10.5. That's your grave size. So you got the plat, then you got the grave number. You got to find that grave. We got pins every 7 feet. We use metal detectors, find your grave, and then you we got more pins at 21 feet because your plat is 721 is what I, but anyway, a grave is 3.5 by 10.5. But then we just line our grave up, put the rack down, chop it out, and then the operator comes. We always have two guys, an operator and another guy on the ground, and they'll dig it, whether it's a container or no container, depends on the depth of the grave. And then we set it up and we break it down and we close it, and that's a wrap.
Wow. From start to finish. That's incredible. So obviously it takes your whole maintenance crew, to be able to do that. Kathy mentioned it earlier. It's about 6 full-time guys.
Yep.
You've got some permanent part-time, that also work with you. Explain to me, what some of those positions are, officially, like what they're called within the city organizational structure and maybe some of the tasks within those jobs.
Well, maintainer 2, right now I got 4 maintainer 1s, an operator, and me. But in order to get to maintainer 2, there's quite a bit you got to do to get there. You got to know how to, like I just said, pin a grave. You got to know how to dig it. You got to know how to operate the front end loader. We go by hours on. It takes about a year before they're able and capable of performing as a maintainer 2 with nobody there but him. He'll be able to do everything, and that's with the foundations too. The foundations is the same concept. We go by the pins, and you got to equal everything out. But
because we require foundations for our monuments, we work closely with our monument companies, and we require foundations. So our staff is responsible for going in and they're all not the same. Foundations for monuments are all different sizes. So, you can't go, there's no uniform measure of going out and just edging it out. They have to actually measure it. There's math skills involved. It's just, there are a lot of other things that have to be involved when you're out there doing that.
But we dig it and fill it, whether it's a wet pour or a dry pour. So, and it's ready for the monument when we turn them in.
Such an intricate process.
Yeah. And it starts in the office. Like I said, we have office staff and they'll receive a call from a funeral home because we work with all the local funeral homes that have a really good relationship with them. And they'll call us in regards to an interment request. Again, they have to have the end within a 48-hour notice. Have to fill out a detailed form that we have because the information they give us gets relayed to our staff because that's what we use to base it on how to find the grave, what kind of grave to bury, and how to prepare that site. But then it's all passed on but the office staff has to get all that information looked up into our system to make sure it's correct, and then they have to go and flag it. So we've got a lot of checks and balances. So we go and flag it first. Steve comes behind and makes sure it's the right grave, and other staff comes and makes. So we got a lot of checks and balances that make sure that we're getting the right place on there. Wow. So, and then it's turned back in, and then we document that to make sure that we follow through on it because we have to have our provisionals, and we turn all that information in to the health department to say yes, we actually did bury this individual. So we have documentation of that.
And you said that happens about 311 times a year?
A year. Yeah.
That whole process.
Yeah, whole process.
Wow. Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into that day to day. How many, you mentioned mowing and just maintaining the grounds. How many total acres do you maintain?
We have 109 acres. Now, of that, about 9 of those acres are contracted out. Okay. 10 acres are contracted out. But ours is mainly on our campus of February Cemetery 1 and February Cemetery 2 was being there. But you have over 50,000 obstacles. It's not like mowing a mower, a football field or open soccer field. These guys have to concentrate. We use smaller mowers, or smaller decks, I should say, to do that. But as Steve said, it's something that's monotonous, the same thing over and over. You get it done, it's great, you feel wonderful, but then you got to start the whole thing over again the next day, another next week. So, that is, it takes a unique individual, but then again, they're mowing, but then what happens at 11 o'clock? We have a service. Sure. He has to pull those guys off, and they have to be changing into their different type of demeanor when they're there with a family. So, they have to be able to be well versed and adaptable. Yeah.
I can imagine that there's just of course, a level of reverence and respect that comes with the job because you want every family that, comes in there to be able to celebrate their loved one in the way that they, feel best deemed. And you guys are helping facilitate that. And so I can imagine there's a difference in, attitude and just approach to the job as you kind of go through the day to day with those services popping up. And then, it's back to maintaining the the park and everything. So as we were talking about maintaining the cemetery, something that popped up in my mind that we do that's pretty unique is we have some special staff members, truly seasonals, I guess, if you will, that help us maintain the cemeteries each year. Can you explain that a little bit?
We have one cemetery designated specifically for two workers there. They come in the 1st of May and usually stay until the end of October and do maintaining Covington Cemetery. There are goats, and that area is a little more, a lot of vegetation in there, so it's hard to get machinery in there to maintain that. And that's proven to be really beneficial to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we check them daily. Steve's
No complaints at all from them. So it's pretty,
the great employee to have, isn't
They're
it?
pretty good
Did you
employees.
ever think that you would call two goats coworker?
no.
But you could always remember that. I mean, that can always be a part of your career.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good guys.
Do they have names?
And they do,
Yeah.
and I'm going blank as to what their names are. And
I
I'm
can't
thinking-
remember.
And I know one was Brutus.
Okay,
And I
I
think the
like
other
it.
was Lola, but
Awesome.
I can't remember. We do have a few things that we had to put signs up a couple years ago. We have a lot of visitors that come and want to look at the goats, and that's
Sure.
great, and that's wonderful. Visit with them, but they are there for a purpose.
Sure.
The reason they are there is to eat the vegetation and control it. But when people bring food, they don't want to eat that
They get
vegetation
too full.
because they like the other food. You want to get Pop-Tarts and
Yeah.
all that stuff, you know.
Sure.
So, we had to put some signs up. So we don't mind you coming. We do have a great a neighbor and ambassador next door with Mr. Morgan who helps
Sure.
us.
That's cool. That's a good transition too, because it sounds like, Mr. Morgan that you mentioned is in a way a volunteer for us.
Yes, he is.
Helping oversee our friends Brutus and Lola. I'll remember that forever now.
I'll have to double check with that. Yeah.
So Mr. Morgan is a volunteer for us, but he is not the only one. So at the cemetery, you all do a lot of programs throughout the year that, require volunteering, or just, groups can volunteer in general. So explain a little bit, some of those volunteer programs that you all have and some of the things that volunteers help you do throughout the year.
Well, we're always open to anybody who wants to come in. We're not going to turn anybody away because there's always something we can benefit, and we want them to be able to put their hand in making the cemetery beautiful. They want to be able to do that. Of course, we have several programs throughout the year. Memorial Day is where we partner with our high school junior ROTC programs, and they place out flags at all the veterans headstones that are in the 3 designated veteran sections in Fairview Cemetery too. And then we have several groups that will come in and do data and some other educational groups throughout the school systems that need to get some hours and they need to go through. So we'll have them pick up sections of debris like twigs and limbs and stuff like that and trash and just put it off to the side or bag it up. We had a group from St. Joseph Middle School back in May. Their last week of school did a day of caring project and helped with the Veterans Holiday Wreath Program and took off 550 old bows off of wreaths and put new ones on. We still have over 600 more to do, but they help cut that in half. Then we have the holiday wreath program that we do in December. We always do the first Saturday in December.
Mm-hmm.
Place those out, and they stay until probably about the first week in February. So we're going to stop there. We put them out for 2 months. And then we get a lot of volunteers. Last year we had 73 volunteers that came out. The school systems, again, were very, had a lot of numbers there with their kids. We had the Daughters of Revolutionary were there. People driving by, just seeing it, saying, "Hey, can we help you?" Just get in there and start doing what you want to do. So that helps a lot.
That's awesome.
But then again, the guys are a big help when it comes at the end. It's easy when I get them there and to put it out, and because it's right for the holiday season. But then we get in such a busy after the new year, it's hard. So our guys are really good about getting them all put up and getting them organized and ready for the next season.
That's a lot of work too. I can remember during COVID, I came out and put some wreaths out, and it's a lot of work getting those out, and I'm sure picking them up too. How many wreaths and like how many flags for the Memorial Day program? How many of those go out?
1,162.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's a lot. It
That's a big number.
It is. It's a big number. We just did flags back on Memorial Day, so that's the number that we had. But we'll add every time we have a veteran burial. We have to add an extra wreath onto that or another flag on that.
Sure.
But putting them out, it only took them. I think it took us an hour
Wow.
to put all those out. The wreaths last year, it only took them 45 minutes.
That's
because we had so
wild.
many volunteers.
Yeah.
So, it's great to have those, many hands make light work, as they say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, that was wonderful, and it's great. And they're putting back into a program that's, sentimental to a lot of people there, and a lot of veterans take it. We get a lot of calls when people driving by say, this is too beautiful. They'd like to see that.
No, it really is. When you're driving down, Fairview, heading into downtown or heading out of town, it really, during those times, it adds an extra level of aesthetic, and it is really cool to see as you drive down the road to see all those wreaths and all those flags out. So that's awesome. And the same reverence that the staff have, during their day to day is the same reverence that the volunteers can have. Just so that's a really special volunteer opportunity, I think, that we're able to offer within Parks and Rec. So I want to also ask, we talked a little bit about programming and volunteering. Can you touch a little bit on what's available online with genealogy research and everything out at the cemetery?
Of course, with that, we have our online burial search, so you'd have access to look for a loved one. Now, we are still in the process of entering data for that, especially on the older side of just getting that information documented into our database. But what we do is we enter the loved one's name, and then we have basically their obituary information is listed in there. The cool thing now that it's a benefit on that website, is that you can go to it to where you can get a map. And then if you get all that genealogical information, and it's pretty detailed because we asked that on that part of the individual, so that you can go to the icon on my burial search and hit that, and the map will come up. And it shows you exactly where they're buried.
Oh, that's cool.
And then they also get to see as reference points when they're out there looking to say, okay, I see where, say my grandmother is. So she's kind of in the middle of the section. So I need to be looking at the end of a row. Well, it tells me who is at the end of that row. And it tells me who their name is. So I can kind of drive around and try to find that, or walk around. Because it'll tell you also where you are in the cemetery. Then if you hit that icon, it'll tell you exactly where the grave is. But then you hit another icon and it'll say, how do I get that grave from where I'm at? So it's kind of nice to see that. Cool. So it's kind of neat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's kind of along those same lines, I'm from Louisville, and one of the more famous cemeteries there is Cave Hill Cemetery, of course. A lot of Kentucky historical legends, if you will, are buried in that cemetery. Who are some of our local people, that are buried here in our cemetery, maybe that people would consider local legends of Bowling Green and Warren County?
Because everybody that's there, it's their final resting place, their loved ones.
Sure.
We want to be reverent to all those. There are some notables that are there. We have, William Natcher, which was a senator that was there. Of course, Pauline Tabor Martin is there. And then we have E.A. Diddle, Hardin Cherry, who was president at Western on that part there. And we have Duncan Hines that is there. And we just celebrated him a couple of weeks ago. But he's in, a lot of people may not realize, but his monument is very, very simple. He's in a family lot, and you have to really kind of go look for it. It's in the Hines lot, and then that's a name that's prominent here in the community. And you get a lot of that when you go in there, because if people are from here, you'll see names like Covington, you'll see Lampkin, you'll see Grider. That's where you get like Grider Pond and Lampkin Park and Covington Woods. Those were families that were there. So those are a lot of prominent dignitaries that were in this area also during that time.
Sure. Yeah. And I like what you said, answering that question at first, that everyone is someone's loved one. So everyone in the cemetery matters to their family, despite the fact that there's some of those, notable individuals buried in the cemetery. It kind of is a theme in Parks and Rec that we do always like to say that everyone matters. And that rings true at the cemetery, and that rings true in the programs that we do at our community centers, at the pool, and athletics, and everywhere. And everybody matters to us. And so also kind of a good transition. We were talking before we got on the podcast, just a little bit about the ways that Parks and Rec as a whole, obviously, like I mentioned, we're celebrating Park and Rec Month, and we like to celebrate the impact that we make through what we do daily in the field of parks and recreation. And one of the things that rings true for us every day is obviously, we enhance quality of life for the communities that we serve through everything that we do. And it's interesting to look at, our programming as a whole. So the youth programming that we do for the youth in our community, but then we're also serving our community with the cemetery division. What do you think that means as far as, serving people through parks and recreation through their entire life cycle? What does that look like for you? You've kind of been on all sides of it,
right,
Kathy, because you've worked in every area. So
I know, starting with in Parks and Rec, we worked in in the field. It started with programming for little ones and inspected mothers, and kind of come full circle now as to where it's the end of life. Our number one goal at Fairview Cemetery is to take care of the burial. That's what it is. Yes, we have 109 acres. We got to mow it. That's all what people see. They see a finished product, but we are there to make sure that we're having everything prepped for that family and that loved one. Staff is ready to be there to receive and provide a service because this is their loved one. And it's not going to be the last time they come to visit that loved one. It's not the finality there. They're always going to come back and visit. Am I correct, Stephen? You're going to have people that are there on a regular basis that are very regular about coming to visit. Because they miss their loved one. And we want to make sure that we provide a service that we're going to be able to have a product that is, aesthetically pleasing to them. And, if they have issues, don't hesitate to give us a call at the office. And our guys are going to address it. And our ladies are going to be there to give what we can within reason. Because people tend to, again, forget, we're under a municipality. We have rules and regulations. We have ordinances that we have to follow. And there's a reason that we have that to follow is that we want to be fair to everybody there. But coming full circle, we want to be able to provide a service for the family and their loved ones and have a final resting place. But also when they come back to visit, they always are always going to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing, to be honest, with again, we talk so much about the impact that we can have in the world of Parks and Rec. And it truly is incredible that we have the opportunity as professionals to impact people's lives, from an early age all the way until, their burial, as you mentioned. And we really are impacting people or have the opportunity to impact people through their entire life cycle. And our department truly does do that, which is incredible. Obviously, we appreciate, the work of everybody in our department that are able to impact people's lives at those different stages.
And it takes a unique individual to work with the cemetery.
Sure.
A lot of people are not suited for that position. You have to have the right type of mindset and the physical ability. And, we have 6 full-time employees in our maintenance division. And then we have 2 office managers or office associates that are part-time. They're not even full-time, part-time, but they do full-time job, and they're there to receive the public. They're the face early when they come in first. And then, it starts there in the office and then it filters back into where the rest of the staff is. And so you have to have a very good and great cohesive unit to work together. And because we do have to be there together to make sure that everything gets done. It starts in the office, it goes to them, but it comes back to the office again. So the staff has to work really good together, but they have to have that compassion when someone comes in and they're trying to purchase a grave. And that could be pre-need, and that could be before they've passed away and is trying to be, or that they've lost a loved one. And it's something that was unexpected and they weren't prepared for it. So we're trying to make that as smooth for them. But then the guys, again, the public sees the final product, but then the guys have to go out, prepare. And, there's a lot into preparing before they're there. They see it and they have to say, we had to sign the grave. We had to make sure that, prepare the grave, the opening of the grave, and then setting up the grave and getting it ready and being there to receive the family. And then in some cases, again, having to be a pallbearer. That's a different type of mindset of an individual to be able to be put on that because it could, affect their, mentality there. But the guys, and Steve can interject here on there, you guys know about our individuals that come here that are being laid to rest.
Yeah.
You could probably ask about, who are we laying to rest today? And they could tell you who they are. They know the name. It's just not a piece of paper. They know who the person's name is. They know about their background because they've read their obituary. They take it personal. It's just not a job. It's intimate.
Absolutely.
It's very intimate for our guys.
Yeah. I got a good group of guys, though. They're real good. I mean, the job never ends. Once you bury them, we got to maintain it. It keeps going, so it will never end. So
I'm glad you mentioned that too. There truly is a level of care, that comes in all of our jobs in Parks and Rec, but it's on a totally different context at the cemetery. And I think that's incredible that, the guys that you all have are, taking that extra attention to get to know who their who they're burying, who they're helping a family celebrate, which is awesome. So just give me a couple of your most favorite parts about your job. What are some of the things that you enjoy most about your job? What are some things that have stuck out to you during your time with the city?
Well, the maintaining, I like for it to look good. And I don't want our guys to be in the spotlight. I want them to kind of sit back and not be seen. I guess that's what you can put. And I like to give a good product to the families.
Sure.
I want everything to go smooth, no issues.
They're not even there. I mean,
I don't.
Again, I keep bringing it up. People get to see the finished product, but Steve's really good and great about making sure that things are meticulous. He's very systematic. Things are in place, but you don't see that.
Sure.
He makes sure our staff is out of the way. We don't want to interfere with that remembering and that memorialization of that loved one.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're gone, job starts again.
Sure.
And they do it again.
In your jobs, has there ever been a particular moment, a particular story where you left that day and you're like, wow, this is a job where I'm truly impacting the lives of other people?
I think each day, no one day sticks out because, again, like we all talk about, we come in, we have a job to do. So, they're all memorable because, we know that we've provided a final resting place for the family that's where they wanted to be. So that's what we're here. At the end of the day, we've done what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, none are really different to me because it's a dark time in everybody's life. It don't matter who you are.
Because it's not, you get some that are come in and they may have already accepted the passing of the loved one because it has been something they've been able to prepare for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different type of emotions when you see families there, but then you see others that it was totally, surprised and they can't really, it's still hard to accept. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
You're always going to love your loved one and you're going to miss them. People just going to, address it in different ways. And again, we want to respect that. Our staff is there and we see somebody, we'll just move away and let them have their time and moment to visit their loved one.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Again, we talk about parks and recreation, enhancing quality of life, and that's in times of celebration, but also, people's darkest times. We want to try to be a refuge for people and try to be a place where, they can get that level of care that helps them, again, celebrate a loved one, but also to be able to move past that and all the emotions that come with that. So the level of attention and the level of care that our staff has at the cemetery, and I think that's something to be highlighted and for our community to be thankful for.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the community is very thankful. And Steve, correct me if I'm not, but a lot of families come over and they personally seek out
Sure.
the staff. They go out of their way to go over to find that staff and say, guys, thank you so much for what you've done. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Kathy, you shared a story with us before we started. If you can maybe share that again just on air here, because I thought it was pretty cool. Your time at the community center, you had a family recently that was out at the cemetery that had a connection to you during your time.
Yeah, it's a little different
yeah.
coming from the community center sector part and dealing with families and getting to see that cycle of life, starting when they're younger, in the first grade and kind of going up and up. And, we had some family members that come up there and, I'm out of that setting and I haven't been in the community center for about 7 years now. But then we had a service and someone was off waiting to come visit the loved one. And then she kind of went over, she said, aren't you Miss Kathy? I said, yes. And yeah, remember the little kids? I said, oh, yeah. Then you ask about how they're doing. One's a senior, one's a junior in high school.
Sure.
Thinking, oh, goodness, they get older. So, yeah, it's nice to have those memories there, but also want to be able to comfort her because she had lost her sister, So, we wanted to make sure that she had her time to visit with her sister.
Sure.
So, but
sometimes that connection, can help make somebody more comfortable in that situation.
And you see the little ones that'll come up and they'll see you, they'll kind of wave to you, and I kind of wave back, but still let them know that they need to be with their family during that time. But maybe that's a little simple, make it a little easier.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's incredible that as a parks department, I'll say it again, that we can serve people here in our community throughout their entire life cycle. And that's a pretty incredible thing. That's a special thing that I think we have the opportunity to do within Parks and Recreation. So thank you for what each of you do. Thank you for what your crew does on a daily basis. And it's an honor to work with the two of you, without a doubt. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for listening to the Talk BGKY podcast. Again, the official podcast for the city of Bowling Green. I'm Cameron with Steve and Miss Kathy. And don't forget to celebrate Park and Rec Month during the month of July.